This is the Volkswagen ID.3, an all-electric hatchback that rivals everything from the MG4 EV to the Tesla Model 3. Now, since its launch back in 2020, its journey has been a little bit bumpy, shall we say. Basically, when it launched, some consumers were moaning about the interior quality, especially given the price, and the god-awful functionality of the touchscreen. Skip ahead to right now, and Volkswagen has upgraded those two things with this ID.3 here, a facelifted model that was brought forward in order to keep consumers happy. However, it is worth noting that Volkswagen does plan to upgrade this ID.3 with a new one in 2024, which will kind of be considered the proper second generation, and that'll bring certain upgrades with it, like a bigger infotainment screen. With us so far? Good, great, let's get into it. Now, this is the first ID.3 I've ever driven. I didn't drive the pre-facelifted model, so my first impressions of the ID.3 right now, as it stands, are pretty good. I mean, there's enough soft touch materials dotted around to help elevate it above your average hatchback. I mean, it doesn't feel luxury, no, but, you know, it feels really nice. Now, given the feedback of the previous model, the first thing I did gravitate towards was this touchscreen to see if it's still bad. But you know, I'm glad to say it isn't. It's really good, it's really responsive, there's proper dedicated menus which makes navigating it really easy to do, and yeah, really responsive, really good, got no complaints here at all. I do, however, have some complaints with the buttons on the steering wheel. Now, they've got sort of a haptic feedback, you probably hear this, you can't because of the sound effects on here, but it's got a clicky feel which you can never quite tell if you've pressed the button or how many times you've pressed it. I don't know. I just think you can't beat good old clicky buttons and not haptic feedback vibration buttons. So yeah, not a fan of that. I am, however, a fan of the instrument cluster behind here, which, by the way, moves easily with the steering wheel, so it's always perfectly in sight. I really like that. And there's also a really good head-up display as well, which has tons of details on navigation details and also augmented reality features like when you're veering out of your lane. Practicality in the cabin is fairly good, even if the glove box and the door bins are a bit rubbish. You've got loads of practicality here. Two decent sized cup holders, a little cubby here, and probably the best solution for storing a smartphone I've ever seen. Just slots right in there, and that's also the wireless charging pad. How cool is that? But the best practicality feature in here, and it might not seem like a big thing, is this little armrest. I mean, not only does it make the driving position absolutely spot on, probably one of the best I've driven for quite a while, but it just works. It's just in the perfect position, and not only that, you can adjust it with a little switch underneath. You can have it up high like that if you really wanted to. But yeah, it's just one of those things that if it wasn't there, I think you'd really notice it, but it got me excited anyway. Now, trim level wise, there's Pro and Pro S, each trim corresponding to different battery options, more on that later. And while the trims differ very slightly in terms of kit, they're mostly the same. And in general, equipment across the range is pretty good. It ticks all the essential boxes. You get sat-nav, DAB radio, heated seats, wireless phone charging, and adaptive cruise control. I mean, it's nothing eye-watering equipment wise in the ID.3, but it is really good. So, first off, nice wide opening door, you know I always like that. And the first thing you'll probably notice when you jump in here is the fact that the seats sit on quite a steep angle. Now, this makes your knees sit a little bit high, which people might find uncomfortable, and it also makes fitting child seats a little bit awkward. Now, this is probably due to the electrical bits and bobs underneath these seats. And in fact, this, the bigger battery Pro S model that we've got, only officially comes with 2 seats. This isn't a seat in the middle. You get a little gap here, which is for, I have no idea what. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to put in there. And Volkswagen actively discourages you from actually sitting in this seat. It's something to do with weight on the axle or something like that. And you know what, even if you do sit in this middle seat, you can't quite get either cheek to, yeah. Anyway, aside from that little quirk, space back here is excellent. I mean, head height for me, I'm only like 5'7", 5'8". Short guy, but headroom's fine for me. That 6-footers might struggle, but leg room, again, this is set up for me, is massive. I mean, even with that setback, another 6 inches, you're still gonna have probably average hatchback room. So yeah, really good. And you also get a flat floor here, so moving around's easy to do, and you get some dual USB-C charging ports as well. Oh, I know what it's for. It's for M&Ms. Now, looking at the ID.3 from the outside, you might assume boot space is pretty much non-existent because it's quite compact, but it's a pretty good boot. I mean, it's nice and square, it's very usable. You get 385 litres with the seats up and around 1300 litres with the seats down. And those seats fold down nice and flat as well because you've got this adjustable boot floor. And this adjustable boot floor also means that you've got a little bit of underfloor storage as well. Now, this is by no means the biggest boot on offer. It's probably around average, if not a little bit below average for a hatchback, but it is a very usable size. You've also got a little ski hatch there as well, which is always good to have for longer objects. So another issue people reported shortly after launch with the ID.3 were related to charging problems and inaccurate range estimations when it comes to the battery capacity. Now, I can't speak for earlier ID.3 models, but we've had no such issues with this model. I mean, the range has been fantastic since topping it up to 100%. In fact, with shorter inner city journeys, it's been particularly impressive. I've actually been looking down constantly, waiting for the percentage to go down, thinking, surely not. The impressive range is in part thanks to the regenerative braking, most electric cars have it, that the ID.3 has. I mean, you can have it in regular drive mode or you can have it in B mode for regenerative braking, and the second you take your foot off the accelerator, the car pulls back and brakes and puts some energy back into the battery. The ID.3 is quiet, smooth, it can dart out at junctions easily because of its electric boost, and the steering has a lovely weight to it as well, which makes turning corners on country roads or in the city reassuringly precise. It isn't exactly fun to drive like the Cupra Born is, an all-electric car based on the same platform, but it is pleasant. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are two battery options in the ID.3. There's the 58 kilowatt per hour battery option in the Pro model and the 77 kilowatt per hour battery in the Pro S. Now, these two batteries offer an official range of 266 miles and 347 miles respectively. They also offer a max charge rate of 120 kilowatts and 170 kilowatts respectively for anyone who's crunching figures. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if mid to late 2024 Volkswagen introduce an even smaller battery option, but we'll see. Now, with regards to this 77 kilowatt per hour battery we've got in the Pro S model, you're looking at a charge time of around 12 hours to 100% capacity from a standard home wall box charger, the kind that you see all over the place. Best case scenario, you're looking at a 30-minute charge to 80% battery capacity from a 170 kilowatt per hour rapid charger, the likes you find at the side of the motorway. Also, for any company car drivers out there, you're looking at an extremely low BIK tax rate of just 2% for 2023 and 2024. I guess my only minor criticism with the way it drives is a slightly firm suspension, which is fairly common with EVs, but it's still really well engineered. I mean, it doesn't clatter over potholes or bumps. It does handle them really well. As a standalone electric car option, I think the ID.3 is great. Yes, it has its shortcomings, but the vast majority of eco-conscious cars do, especially full EVs. But if you're looking for a full EV that's got a bit of an X factor about it, this is just a bit meh. I mean, when looking at an EV from a big brand like Volkswagen, other brands like Tesla have to enter the conversation, and the ID.3 does not have anywhere near the same level of intrigue, key swirling smugness, luxury or lifestyle packaging as the Tesla Model 3 does. It just doesn't. I know the Tesla Model 3 is a bigger car, but that's the same kind of territory the ID.3 is occupying. And then you look at the ID.3's price tag, with this model having a few optional packs fitted, which are expensive by the way, like a driver assistance pack and interior pack, and suddenly your nose starts to bleed. Go on, rich from the near future, tell me how much this ID.3 cost. £50,000. Wow.